and all guests to this conference. In recent decades, the right to information has become recognized worldwide as an overarching human right. The International Day of Universal Access to Information has become a formal UN day to commemorate this right, and we gather here today to celebrate and mark this. Society is free in the information age only when free information flow, the flow of information is free. And access to information underpins this freedom and is a prerequisite for the successful development of all spheres of our lives. Media freedom and safety of journalists is also an important element of this. Many journalists around the world today face increasing harassment, intimidation, surveillance, both online and offline, and risks to their lives and livelihoods. We need to collectively work together to support journalists and media workers everywhere, because only when citizens know how they're being governed can they hold their governments accountable to decisions for their decisions and actions. And in this regard, I should say that Uzbekistan has shown its determination to adopt and make progress on international standards, ratings, and rankings on a variety of spheres. And this is one of them. And I want to highlight the work that UNESCO in Uzbekistan is proposing on international standards in this regard, including enhancing norms and policies related to freedom of expression, safety of journalists, and the right to information, protecting journalists by coordinating the implementation of the UN Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists, and implementing the 5 modules of the UNESCO Toolkit on the safety of journalists. I wish them the very best of luck in this, and I know the government is fully supportive. Ladies and gentlemen, universal access to information is a cornerstone of healthy and inclusive knowledge societies. That's why the importance of artificial intelligence is also reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals. In recent years, Uzbekistan has put in place irreversible and strong reforms and has made significant strides in putting access to information at the center of reforms. We see efforts to strengthen international cooperation and embrace the latest international norms in information and knowledge sharing areas, and we highly commend the government for this. The UN family is actively supporting the government of Uzbekistan and its civil society in its efforts to widen freedom of expression and strengthen mechanisms to ensure access of information in the country. Therefore, once again, on behalf of the UN country team in Uzbekistan, I want to extend my warm welcome to the participants of the conference. And now it is my great privilege to introduce this very, very distinguished panel. Mr. Tawfiq Jalasi, Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Communication and Information Sector. Ms. Blanca Lilia Ibarra Cadena, President Commissioner, National Institute of Transparency, Access to Information and Personal Data Protection from Mexico. Honorable Kabyanga B.K. Gotri, the Minister of State for ICT and National Guidance, Uganda. Mr. Oleg Pekos, First Deputy Minister of Development, Information Technology and Communication of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Mr. Christian R. Rablan, Undersecretary, Department of Education of the Philippines Government in the Philippines. Mr. Ivor Talo, Director of E-Governance Academy, former Member of Parliament of Estonia and Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe from Estonia. I'd like to request our panel to keep their introductory remarks to 10 minutes. and then we'll go into open discussion. But I would again encourage you, request you to give brief answers so that we can have more discussion. Before we get into the open remarks, I'd like to introduce a video message from Ms. Irene Khan, the UN Special Rapporteur for Freedom of Opinion and Expression. Oh, I'm being told that's no longer the case. Okay. So we'll go straight into the roundtable. You've already heard from Mr. Jalasi, but let me quickly introduce him a bit more. Mr. Jalasi, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO for Communication and Information Sector, was previously Minister of Higher Education, Scientific Research, and Information and Communication Technologies in the Government of Democratic Transition in Tunisia. He has published numerous articles in specialized journals and 7 books, the latest of which is entitled Strategies for E-Business, Concepts and Cases on Value Creation and Digital Business Information. So we couldn't have a better person to kick us off on this important topic of harnessing opportunities of digital governance and artificial intelligence for informed and empowered citizens. Please, ADG.
Thank you very much, Rocky, for your kind introduction. To build on what I said in my opening remarks, the right to access information is based on the right to seek and receive information. This is obviously a key dimension of a universal right to freedom of expression. And we did mention, Rolly, the importance of ensuring freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and also the safety of journalists. Today, information and communication technologies, such as the internet and artificial intelligence, are crucial enablers to provide this universal right. Every year on September 28th, UNESCO promotes access to information and knowledge as an essential element for democratic and inclusive societies and as a key enabler for good governance. We are celebrating this year the International Day of Universal Access to Information here in Tashkent. We'll share best practices for access to information policies and procedures using e-governance services. We will also analyze the opportunities and the risks posed by new technologies such as artificial intelligence as far as information access is concerned. Additionally, we'll examine how UNESCO assists multiple stakeholders in providing solutions that enable an improved environment for information access. UNESCO also provides technical support for capacity building. It provides support to enhance norms and define policies related to information access. In cooperation with its partners, UNESCO has supported projects in many countries, including Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Ghana, Indonesia, Mongolia, Morocco, Rwanda, Senegal, Tunisia, but also in the Latin American region. UNESCO has also joined forces with other stakeholders in the context of the World Summit on the Information Society. The aim here is to develop a competency framework on AI and digital transformation, a competency framework for civil servants and policy makers. Capacity building goes hand in hand with awareness raising on the importance of adopting and implementing access to information laws. The celebration of this International Day today is an important opportunity to advocate for the right to information, and our advocacy efforts in the long run will one way or another pay off. This year, the celebration is happening in 20 other countries besides Uzbekistan. Moreover, in recent years, we have seen a major surge in the number of access to information laws implemented across the world. Let me give you just one statistic. In 1990, we had only 14 countries that had laws specifically guaranteeing citizens' right to information. Today, in 2022, based on our data and research, this number has increased from 14 to 135 laws that guarantee citizens access to information. Clearly, this is almost a tenfold increase in the implementation of such laws. The process was accelerated by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as SDG Goal 16, Target 10, calls specifically, and they read here, ensure public access to information and fundamental freedoms. To track the implementation of these information laws, UNESCO conducts an annual survey on SDG Indicator 16.10.2, to which as many as 123 countries and territories have responded. While in 2021, last year, we had only 102 respondents. So we are delighted to see this substantial increase in the involvement of member states. The findings from this year's survey shows a steady increase of countries having constitutional, statutory, and policy guarantees for access to information by citizens. These guarantees primarily include an oversight body and the requirement for public bodies to appoint officers handling access to information issues. However, monitoring such development is not an end in itself. It's only a means towards a broader end. Reporting also serves as a means for countries to identify possible improvements and therefore to provide an incentive to improve the legal frameworks in place, but also to enforce implementation and monitoring. To assist member states and civil society in dealing with standards and updated policy guidelines for the development and promotion of governmental public domain information and open data guidelines will be presented at this conference here tomorrow. These two documents aim to address new challenges related to digitalization and implementing progressive steps that create an enabling and open environment for information access. We have also tabled for your endorsement a draft declaration that will reaffirm the commitment to recognizing and respecting the fundamental right to access information, especially in this digital era. This declaration is called the Tashkent Declaration and will be a major outcome of our conference here. It covers the principles of good governance, especially in the context of artificial intelligence and other emerging digital technologies. It also addresses recent developments, such as the impact of digitalization and the importance of legal guarantees, which are inclusive, especially for persons with disabilities and for other marginalized groups. Prior to tabling this declaration for adoption, it has undergone an extensive consultation process, including an online consultation that UNESCO organized together with the UNDP through the SDG 16 network. We hope that all these tools, which I briefly mentioned, will assist governments and civil society in promoting better laws and better governance through information access. We also hope that the new technologies that we'll focus on will contribute to playing an important role for bridging the digital divide by supporting citizens' access to tailor-made and timely information. Access to information is emerging as the new norm in sustainable development, which can help countries defend the human rights of every citizen and contribute to the achievement of all sustainable development goals, while ensuring that we leave no one behind. By protecting the right to information and developing frameworks and capacities, UNESCO gives governments and societies the tools to build trust and provide direction for a rights-based approach. This is very important, and I want to conclude with this. This rights-based approach has 4 key pillars: human rights, openness, accessibility, and multi-stakeholder approach. We believe for any technology to support access to information has to respect fundamental freedoms and universal rights, has to be accessible to all people in society, but also has to be open to small groups, to people with disabilities or other features, but also has to follow this inclusive process, which is multi-stakeholder based: government, private sector, academia, civil society. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, ADG. And now I'd like to invite Ms. Blanca Lilia Ibarra Cadena, President Commissioner, National Institute for Transparency, Access to Information and Personal Data Protection from Mexico. Commissioner Ibarra is President of the International Conference for Information Commissioners and the Network for Transparency and Access to Information. Please go ahead, Commissioner.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenos días tengan todas y todos ustedes. En nombre de las comisionadas y comisionados que integran el Instituto Nacional de Transparencia, Acceso a la Información y Protección de Datos Personales de México, que ostenta la presidencia de la Conferencia Internacional de Comisionados de Información y la presidencia de la Red de Transparencia en Iberoamérica, nos sentimos muy honrados de estar aquí en este importante encuentro, en este diálogo de alto nivel, en el marco de esta conferencia global en su edición 2022. En primer lugar, quiero agradecer a la Organización de las Naciones Unidas para la Educación, la Ciencia y la Cultura por la invitación para sumarnos a este encuentro, que nos permite reflexionar sobre las oportunidades que hay en la era digital y la inteligencia artificial para lograr una ciudadanía más informada. Saludo desde luego a todas las personas que siguen esta transmisión y a quienes tengo el privilegio de acompañar en este panel. Es un privilegio estar en este país, una ciudad también como Tashkent, que permite no solamente reunir y compartir historia y tradiciones, punto de encuentro de las culturas. Uzbekistán y Tashkent a lo largo del tiempo han sido neurálgicos en lo que se refiere al comercio y la innovación. Por ello, el que albergue esta conferencia, donde buscamos responder a los grandes retos que entraña la gobernanza digital en favor de las sociedades más resilientes, inclusivas y sostenibles, responde en gran medida al papel que ha desempeñado a lo largo de la historia. Desde inicios del siglo XXI, el progreso de las sociedades contemporáneas ha sido acompañado de rápidas y disruptivas transformaciones tecnológicas y de comunicación, cambiando la manera en que las personas y las organizaciones interactúan y se relacionan entre sí con respecto a otras entidades, tanto de la esfera pública como privada. De acuerdo con la base de datos de indicadores mundiales de telecomunicaciones del Banco Mundial, el porcentaje de usuarios de Internet a nivel global es de más del 60% de la población. La provisión de servicios de telefonía celular ha alcanzado más de 7.800 millones de
smartphones, these are cell phones, and Of course, in such a big amount, it is an issue for us, and still it is an opportunity also, because according to the reports on the social ICT week, around 70% of people all across the world use internet as a tool to collect information. And of course, they're using internet also to maintain contacts with their families. And according to the statistical data which are available at the moment, there is a ranking which shows us the best opportunities and the best results, as well as the ambitions which we have in society regarding this digital society. And of course, in this field, technologies are developing very proactively, and the countries are countries are fully understanding that these platforms should be strengthened for further rendering assistance to achieve transparency, accountability of each citizen of the society. For example, as we will expand the practice of universal access to information and electronic access international level, it became very obvious to all of us that it plays a crucial part, notwithstanding even the corona crisis, that the 39 countries, according to the statistics which they have submitted, there over 60% of population are proactively using information, their right to information, including e-government services. And e-government services are boosting the usage of electronic services, and they are upgrading the level of transparency in society. And of course, we need to have a conformity, and we need to also engage people in various online discussions and meetings, which will enable them to get the tools to resolve certain issues which they face in society and which refer to human rights. In 1966, in our country, we were facing significant challenges, and we have taken serious steps to boost access to information. And I can tell you that people now can easily monitor all the processes in the society at the governmental level, and people can easily become more informed on what is happening in all the fields. Moreover, we should especially mention the importance of freedom of expression and freedom of speech, freedom of access to information. And in decision making, the access of information also helps us in this extent, and of course our government is proactively involved in these issues. So regarding the UNESCO report, we can tell you that we have 15 or 32 countries, and of course we can tell you that a lot of actually in this document we are trying to involve people, and I should mention that 32 countries are there, and I can tell you that people can get this information regarding this. The countries, as per the UNESCO study, it is very clear that they should receive information. And it is very interconnected. It is very important for interconnected to be available in social media. And of course, it will help us to improve our daily life also. And in this horizon, we should also ensure the transparency of the network when we are. We should also keep in mind that in Mexico, Mexico is paying significant attention to protect personal data. And if we will have the group of 32 people, probably, where we are engaged, we are the pioneers to ensure the access to information from municipal level, where we can perform certain tasks collectively, and where we can, the Council of International Representatives in this conference, we announced all of our fruitful efforts in this content with the regards to transparency of information and algorithms of development. So from this point of view, I would like to mention that the right to electronic data, to digitalization of data, should be there, and we should be focused on this. So I think that we should have we have at the moment a positive feedback on this issue. People are getting proper information. Sometimes people are not happy, I would say, with this, and sometimes people might misuse the information which has been provided to them. So we are trying to maximize and to make this information as transparent as possible, even in our publication. And of course, I would like at the moment to have a platform introduced to you. Here in Mexico, we have a platform which is focused on transparency, and this platform also helps to protect privacy, where everyone from civil society can get easily get registered. That started from October 2020. We have obtained and rendered over 3 million services, and this experience, I guess, can simplify and ease interaction with civil society. And it is not just through online services, but also through various specially dedicated programs, and for us to improve the access to information, we should, I guess, from my point of view, it is very important that the government officials should be especially focused on needs of civil society, information which might save lives, I would say. And this is might be some assistance which vulnerable or any member of society might need. So, for example, we have several publications and works together with the Ministry of Health of Mexico, where we can have some lectures, hold lectures for civil society, which is very important, and to protect civil rights, especially with concern to healthcare, and this right can be classified not only for healthcare but also for the other areas and sectors where people can easily address electronically, I mean can apply online to get information and to get services rendered, and efficiency of these platform is also important. I mean institutes which are engaged in a proactive introduction of various communications between civil society, between people and government entities and agencies. It is also creating a lot of opportunities to promote this dialogue and an interaction. We think that it is very important that support should be both from the government side but also from the side of civil society, and we should, I think, focus on what at the moment, if we will be using the e-government systems, we should trust them. We should be able to overcome walls, to overcome barriers. Whatever we have in ICT, in technologies, in projections which we have in our mind, and we should say that at the moment, whatever we have, I mean, information, demand for information is growing, as well as the size of it and scope of information which is available. Therefore, we should use these electronic devices in the countries, and of course, we should focus our attention on strengthening digital society, not locally, but also globally, so that this might be used to strengthening not just the life of a certain country, but for civil society, not just for one country, but also for all the countries. I am very enthusiastic at using technologies and starting from international conference of authorized delegates. We are trying to introduce new technologies to resolve various tasks, and we see great potential in this. This is very promising, and of course we see that from time to time this gets better. It is not just our relations and our connection gets better, but also we are developing our cooperation, and we think that it will help us to strengthen our cooperation also through various forms of dialogue.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can I now invite Mr. Christian Arablan, who works for the Philippines Department of Education, of the Philippine government as Undersecretary for Administration. Previously, he served for 6 years at the Presidential Communications
Уважаемые коллеги,
Operations Office as its Undersecretary for Administration, Finance, and Freedom of Information. Chris, if I may say so, led efforts to produce a model Freedom of Information manual for all public authorities, revived the Open Data Program to complement Freedom of Information, established an online Freedom of Information facility, advocated Freedom of Information ordinance for local governments, and established an FOI exceptions committee. So a lot for us to hear from you on. Please go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to UNESCO and to the Uzbekistan government for hosting us here in the global conference for the International Day for Universal Access to Information. My name is Chris. I come from Southeast Asia, particularly in the Philippines. I am honored to be sharing with you how our country was able to harness digital governance, artificial intelligence, to be able to improve or enhance a public good. The public good being the right to access information by our people. So if we can see our slides on the screen, I will be giving you a context of what we have in the Philippines. Very similar to what President Blanca mentioned earlier. Mexico has its own FOI portal. The Philippines also has its FOI portal. It's foi.gov.ph. We have not as much agencies or authorities, Blanca, in your portal. We have around 550 government entities on our portal, meaning to say our citizens will be able to log on to one portal and ask for information from any of the 550 government agencies or authorities that we have. So context first, what is our problem and what solution or AI solution did we offer to enhance this particular public good? Yes, next slide, please. That's the correct slides. And we have over 100,000 requests made over our portal already to date, around 150,000 already. Of that, 72,000 are successful, meaning to say the information which was requested from the government authority was disclosed to the citizen. 41,000 was denied, and that's what we needed to address. Why were they denied? Why did we deny this citizen the information that he or she was asking? Next slide, please. The pain points is the burden to determine which government entity has the information is on the citizen. And sometimes the information is collected by a different government agency that the citizen does not know. For example, classrooms. How much does the government spend to build classrooms in our country? Who do you ask? We have a Ministry of Education, but we also have a Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure. We also have our development agency. So to which agency does the citizen request that information? In our case, usually the citizen asks from all three agencies. They will ask from our Ministry of Education, they will ask from our Ministry of Infrastructure, and they will ask from our Development Authority. What does this mean? It means that on our part, in government authorities' part, there are three other public officers trying to study if the information is with them and if the information can be disclosed. And like I mentioned, the information is only with one agency. And for this particular case, for classrooms, it's with the Department of Education. So that is what we're trying to resolve. How are we able to resolve that? So right now, the tendency is to send duplicate requests to different agencies, and there is a longer waiting time. For example, about classrooms, if you ask it from a wrong agency, there is a time period. And within that time period, it will be denied because that agency does not have that information. And so the citizen will now have to search among the 550 government agencies which public authority has that information. It becomes a case of eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's a guessing game that they have to repeat over and over until they get the right agency. Next slide, please. So the problem statement is, how might we minimize the number of requests, denials, due to incorrect agency selection and remove the burden of identifying the correct agency from the requesters to make life easier. So that is how we use artificial intelligence to make life easier for our citizens in the Philippines. Next slide, please. The solution is to use a smart AI-based agency recommender system that matches e-FOI requests to the top 3 possible agencies which could fulfill the user's requested information. We reached out to our colleagues at the Asian Institute of Management, Master of Science in Data Science, and they helped us. So shout out to those AIM MSDS students, Law, Agnes, Mandy, and Mia, for helping us develop this smart AI-based agency recommender system. Next slide, please. Our solution is to be able to look at all previous 100,000 FOI requests made. And when the citizen requests for information, yes, next slide, please. When the citizen requests for information on our portal, the AI machine learning will go through all of the previous 100,000 FOI requests and recommend to the citizen, based on your question, these are the top 3 agencies that may hold the information that you're requesting. It's not 100% successful, but it merely recommends. And it's helpful because somehow it minimizes the problem of the citizen. And how does the AI machine learning do this? Next slide, please. So the machine will compare the new request with previously successful queries and will be using the keywords used. So in my particular example, they will be using construction, classroom, buildings. And then they will be ranking the agencies with the highest matching scores. So they will be ranking agency 1 as the Ministry of Education, agency number 2, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Public Works, and Ministry number 3, the Development Authority. So that's how it uses artificial intelligence in order to make the lives of our citizens easier when they request or when they exercise their rights to information. Next slide, please. So the public service value here, ladies and gentlemen, is the AI is very accurate. It's not perfect, but it is above 80% accurate, and it does help the citizens narrow down to which agency does the information should be lodged. And it is easy to deploy. AIM MSDS team gave us the API, and we were able to use it in our website, foi.gov.ph. Next slide, please. The benefits to users, it saves on time. They do not need to ask agency 1, agency 2, agency 3, agency 4. They merely fill it up. The AI machine learning works and shows them the top 3 agencies, and they can narrow down the questions to those 3, or maybe they can just ask agency number 1. For us in the public service, those who answer those questions, the benefits or the public service values are as follows. First, it saves us time. Our studies show that it saves our department or our ministry 515 working days saved. There is no more wastage of time when an FOI request is made to an agency that does not have the information. It also saves us on manpower. Our research has shown that it has saved government 6.5 new FOI officers because AI was used. Next slide. We hope that our sharing from my country, the Philippines, we are able to inspire the attendees and participants of this global conference to embrace artificial intelligence in government service, particularly and empower our citizens to request for information from government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating to hear. I'd like to invite Honorable Kabyanga Godfrey, the Minister of State for ICT and National Guidance from Uganda. He established the Government Citizens Interaction Center, simplified access to information for civil servants, appointed information in every ministry, and established Youth Innovations Hub to incentivize innovation by youth. We're really looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, moderator. I'm Godfrey from Uganda, and Uganda is in Eastern Africa. I bring you greetings from my president, the government, and the people of Uganda. In Uganda, Access to Information Act was made into law in 2005. And our survey in 2018, in collaboration with one of the civil society organizations called Twaweza, it was found that at least 84% of Ugandans have sought information from a public institution because of that law. And our own directives from our president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, our government is receptive to artificial intelligence as an enabler to our strategic objective to cause socio-economic transformation. But as a young graduate from university in 1987, I chanced upon a movie. It was called Robocop. For me, as a person who has grown up from the village, I was intrigued of the idea of a man being reborn as part human and part cyborg. So artificial intelligence was new to me. At that time, I didn't know that I would be Minister of ICT. But I know that imagination is the spark for that creates innovation. And innovation, especially in digital space, has a central role in Uganda fulfilling our strategic mission to have access, universal access to information as a spark to socio-economic transformation. To spur innovation, the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance is enabling innovation hubs is establishing innovation hubs across the country. And so far, we have functional ones in our city in Kampala, and we are creating innovation hubs at regional level to encourage youth to go into serious innovations. And this wouldn't have come at a wrong time. Actually, COVID-19 taught us that artificial intelligence is the way to go. So we are encouraging the youth to go into so many innovations to create platforms which we can use and which the public can use to access information from government, from the private sector, so that people are always informed. We realize artificial intelligence is increasingly becoming a part of our lives, whether it be in agriculture, medicine, identification, registration of citizens, like now every citizen in Uganda must have a national ID, but sometimes it's not easy to have human-to-human contact. So most of these now are done online, and therefore computers are replacing human beings. We are not oblivious, obviously. We have concerns raised by some, and mainly ethical ones, like government utilizing personal people's data for political persecution. We are not also oblivious of third parties accessing information without permission. And we are also not oblivious of machines replacing human beings, because sometimes human beings have personal feeling that machines may not have. But it is obvious that as we go into the digital world and as we do digital acceleration, all that we have to face. So we are also coming up with other laws to ensure people don't misuse the Access to Information Act to get information and misuse it. So we are enacting several other laws like the Computer Misuse Act and others. To address some of these concerns, we have Access to Information Act, we have the Computer Misuse Act, which operationalizes Article 41 of our Constitution. It gives all citizens the right to access information held by our government. Of course, there are exceptions like security and access about minors, but we also put laws for them not to misuse that information. And since 2005, this one has been a law. In 2016, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance also set up what we call the Government Citizens Interaction Center, but now housed under State House, first as a toll-free call center enabling citizens to dial 900 and inquire on government services. They can also report cases of government officials involved in corruption. And we realize that in a day, we can get a minimum of 50 calls, but online interaction and inquiries, we are getting over 1,000 in a day. And it is really informing us, government, of what is happening in society. And has also taught us that when the people have the right information, they will even pay tax without being forced. They are even going to engage in government programs without being forced. And it has really assisted us a lot. Because social media is now part of our global media landscape, the Government Interaction Center now uses social media platforms of Twitter and YouTube to communicate with citizens. But they also use platforms that have been created by our own youth in our innovation hubs. It is reinforced by the Digital Media Unit under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. As people ask for information, we give it to them. We direct them where to find the information. We give them websites where they can find information. Those who call, we give them direct answers. But our Digital Media Unit also, as they keep sending more messages and probably research themselves. You can give someone a website, but doesn't go there. So a Digital Media Unit will also get that information which was asked for and circulate it on other media platforms. In addition, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance has appointed district information officers. We have 136 districts. We have appointed district information officers to keep passing information, essential government information to the public. We have 360 radio stations, and as a law, as a condition of licensing, our government has, every radio station is required to give 1 hour to government to pass information. And our information officers utilize that hour. In our experience, access to information has proved to be an invaluable way for us to become a more efficient, effective, transparent, and accountable government. Recently, we rolled out what we call the parish development model, where we are going to finance local people using their local council at parish level. But as soon as we rolled it out, when they received the money, some government officials wanted to be in control of that money. But fortunately, our digital media center, the government interaction center, and the information officers had given enough information that these circles which we are creating are people owned. And one, if you look at that photo, one of the government officials was arrested by the population itself. And the policeman is trying to assist him not to be mishandled. But people were ready to mishandle that person because they thought he wanted to steal their money. And for us as government, we thought access to information was very important because we would now be the ones going to police around the communities. But the communities now are policing themselves, and that was very wonderful to us. High citizen engagement with public institutions implies that government is in possession of big data sets, and data is new gold. Applying what UNDP has called the leading edge thinking to these data sets, artificial intelligence will hasten our goal to continue to cause socio-economic transformation. Artificial intelligence supported by access to information within the framework of civil service can address our challenges in designing personalized treatment for those with non-communicable diseases, crime prevention. Artificial intelligence can help our agricultural sector through helping predict weather patterns. These predictions could inform on when to plant. It can also help streamline our refugee hosting efforts as well as capture citizens' biodata. Uganda in Africa is one of the countries that is hosting the highest number of refugees. We are so receptive, but the artificial intelligence can help us register all that. As I have stated before, data information is the new goal. It sows the seeds of prosperity. Therefore, for Africa in general, and Uganda in particular, to give its very young population hope for a brighter future, we must continue to work to remove barriers to access to information. And that's my message. Let us all gather here, remove barriers to access to information. And uninformed information, an informed society is a very dangerous society. And therefore, let us declare here that all barriers should be removed so that we have an informed society which will strive to prosper. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting. Information is the new gold, and it sows the seeds of prosperity. So let us create dangerous societies, which are informed. Thank you so much. I'd like to now invite Mr. Ivor Tallow, the Director of E-Governance Academy and former Member of Parliament of Estonia and Member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe from Estonia. He is the author of the Basic Principles of Information Policy of Estonia, Code of Conduct for Civil Servants, and co-author of the Public Information Act. And at the Council of Europe, he was the rapporteur for the Cybercrime Convention. Mr. Tallo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, let me first correct one mistake quickly. You should put the former in front of almost all the names also, yes. But I'm now a member of Tromsø Convention Working Group, so that is the correct something. But let me start by going back to history like Honorable Minister from Uganda did. I mean, I've been all my life kind of student of information flow. And I've had the luck to either write or go after different laws. And that gives me, in Estonia, and that gives me somewhat maybe broader perspective than just access to information questions, because there is also the other regulations on the data protection, state secret laws, digital databases, regulations, etc. And so it was, or it is very good in this panel actually, why I like it, to put together different aspects, like now it is a question with e-governance and transparency, both of which I have been as sources of the development in Estonia. And later in my professional life, I have always dealt with these issues, so I have looked how they have developed. And you know, back in 1990s, we were talking about information society. Then we started to talk about online government. Then we started to talk about e-government. And then we started to talk about e-governance. And now we are talking about digital governance. And in the meanwhile, we were on the trip to good governance. So there are lots of different names, but what we have been trying to do over the last 30 years, I believe, is that we have tried to find the most beneficial ways how the new technologies can be harnessed for our own benefit to improve our lives. And I think this question of artificial intelligence come very much into the play. So I haven't heard from any of the panelists yet sort of what I was thinking of when I was confronted with this question, namely the smart spots. So that will take away from officials the burden to answer the questions because the computers are already so good that they can actually communicate with people and give them the answers they're looking for. And in Islamic context, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to say Salam Alaikum in the beginning. There is digital mufti who is answering questions that people are interested in. And that is something that actually is very beneficial, helps a lot of people, and it is totally based on these new technologies. And so I think that we should look at this in the complex way. I mean, we have to look into the different sides of the regulation of information flows. And it is better to start actually with transparency, because this is where the information comes in to different sources or goes out in some ways. But in many cultures, actually, people start not from regulating the information flows, but they start from publishing the records. So it is like from backwards on. And also the technical solutions in many cases are those. If you look at what IT companies are offering, they come from Anglo-American countries. They are usually first talking about the records management. They are not talking about the freedom of information as such. What my larger point probably is in this is that there is no one single truth, as much as we want it in terms of what is right and what is wrong with access to information. Even in the European Union, we have different paradigms. Well, we have overarching regulation, which is even compulsory to all the member states in terms of, let's say, the data protection rules. But it all comes from the state-society relations. In the Anglo-American approach, well, now the Great Britain is out, of course, of the EU, but the idea was that the state is a necessary evil, and the regulations were created to complement the situation, to tame the beast, so to speak, so that it would not do something bad to the citizen. And it also goes to the former colonies of the British Empire. In contrast, in the continental Europe, the people have more looked at the state in parental features, like state is a motherland or fatherland or some kind of beneficial, well, maybe sometimes doing something wrong, but basically trying to do good things. And then we have also a third approach, which is what I call a Scandinavian approach, where basically the Swedish king already 200 years before Americans started with their sunshine laws had legislated with the parliament that there has to be access to the official information according to the constitutional norm. And what is interesting, they all can somehow coexist together, but they necessitate different, more precise norms. And we can also see, by the way, that, let's say, the European Union now is reducing the transparency of Nordic countries, in the Nordic countries. By, for example, in Nordic countries, it has been sort of part of the life that you know the tax returns of your neighbors. This is a public information because through the taxes we make a contribution to the public life, and therefore everybody has the right to know about it. But in European Union, it has been a more sort of widely understood, thanks to this continental tradition, that this is private information and should not be divulged to anybody else. So what the solution is very funny, and it involves a new technology, by the way. And the solution is that this information is printed in the newspapers, but it is not published online, so you can't search it online. Anyway, there are these kind of quips in different countries, in different regimes. These kind of things are different. That is my message from being, having been a student for this for 30 years. And so I think, Madam Chairman, you are running out pretty much of the time. So Maybe I'll stop here and we'll then have a right for a little round of questions and answers as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And country context absolutely matters. So finally, for introductory remarks, can I invite Mr. Oleg Pekos, First Deputy Minister of Development, Information Technology and Communication of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Please go ahead, Deputy Minister.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Thank you for one copy. If it's possible, I will speak Russian because it's more simple for me to discuss about AI technology.
Using artificial intelligence for ensuring developing of ITC. At the moment, the world is experiencing growth of ICT, and each 2 years the scope of data circulating is doubling, and Internet of Things is moving, and the usage of data will be engaging more and more complicated equipment, and the number of cyber attacks is also growing year by year. In 2020, mostly activities of cyber criminals were targeting on stealing commercial data and private information of individuals, and in 2028 it is forecasted that the world cybercrime market will grow 9.5% annually and will total 375 billions of USD by 2020 years, and its economic cost will total over 100 billions of USD losses due to these cyber crimes. And using IA in cyber security, we should mention that previously people were based on so-called protected perimeter, but at the moment where you can save information in clouds, you should find some other protection means and concepts. So we should also nurture experts and human resources. In cyber security report phase in 2019, we have been missing over 3 million of cyber security specialists, and of course we should be able to protect people from vulnerability of IAE and secure their data and privacy. Introduction of machine learning and IA will help us to identify suspicious actions and take efficient measures to prevent disruptions related to misuse of information. And of course, when suspicious activities are detected and identified, we can use various tools to prevent misuse of data and combating cyber criminals. After technological revolution, the key issue is the issue of stealing private data by means of unauthorized access. And thanks to website, face IDs, voice IDs, you can see these technologies are also booming, and they are successfully introduced and largely used all across the sectors. And even Uzbek specialists are using this My ID and other authentication systems, which have been delayed by Uzinfocom, the single system integrator. My ID will help you to authentify individuals based on their biometric parameters of their face, helping them to get access to government services services as well as financial services, both remotely and face-to-face. My ID have been used in over 600 of companies and government entities, and we have over 1.7 million of users plus 4 million of users who have been authorized in this system. And this system also helps us to use government services through special portal, and it means that 4 million of people should not they haven't have to visit government entities or banks to get services or to open a bank card. And my ID has been recognized by EBRD as the best digitalization project in Central Asia in 2020. And the second agreement is so-called Voice ID, and this neuron networks development helped us to have so-called voice biometric system, which is tested at the moment at Aloka Bank, and as a result, preliminary forecasts are very promising, and I hope that they will be spreading across other commercial banks in Uzbekistan. And one of the key priorities for Uzbekistan is to boost development of artificial intelligence. We have 4 legal documents adopted to this extent. We have established a special department under the Ministry of ICT on AI, and we have created a special alliance joining concerned ministries and agencies with a total amount of over $20 million, and 11 students have been sent by the foundation to abroad to get trained in AIA. And we have focused on agriculture, science, technology, research and development. We have created also special research institute, a think tank with 10 specialized labs, dedicated labs on AI, and of course development of AI is has a crucial role for development of the country and civil society. It will produce its impact on labor market, on human resources, and of course it will boost the number of high skill specialists and help us to overcome manual labor. Of course, we should not be afraid of new technologies when we are striving to overall development. I would like to wish you success, fruitful and understanding good opportunities of digital technologies in this our unlimited world. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all the speakers for some fascinating, absolutely fascinating presentations and for raising some really thought-provoking questions. I'm told that we are running behind time. So what I might encourage people to do is to seek out our panelists in breakouts and during breaks to ask any questions that you might have. But with huge thanks to all of you for all your presentations, I'd like to bring this session to a close, the first session of this conference. Thank you very much to every panelist and to the audience for this. Thank you.